It started on a quiet Thursday morning. I had just finished breakfast when an email notification appeared on my phone. The subject line read, "Exciting job opportunity. Immediate start." At first glance, it seemed like the perfect chance I had been waiting for. I had been out of work for a few months, sending my resume to many companies without much success. So, when I opened the email and saw the words high salary, remote work, and no experience needed, I felt a rush of excitement. I thought to myself, finally, something good is happening. The email was from a company called Global Future Solutions, a name I had never heard before. But the email looked professional, with a logo, proper formatting, and even a link to their website. The job description was simple. I could work as an account manager, helping the company with online purchases and payments. The salary? $3,500 a month, plus bonuses. At first, it sounded too good to be true. But I told myself, maybe I'm just being lucky. The email also mentioned that they found my resume on a popular job board, which made it feel more legitimate. I replied immediately, expressing my interest. Within an hour, I received a reply from someone named Mr. Carter, who introduced himself as the hiring manager. He was friendly and professional. He said, "Congratulations. We believe you are the perfect fit for our team." Mr. Carter sent me a document with detailed instructions on how to proceed. He asked for a copy of my ID, my bank account details for salary payments, and a signed agreement form. At that moment, a small voice in my head whispered, "Is this really safe?" But I ignored it. I was too excited about the opportunity. I scanned my ID, filled out the form, and sent everything back. I thought, this is just standard procedure for any job. A few days later, Mr. Carter called me. His voice was calm and reassuring. He said, "We are so happy to have you on board. Your first task will be simple: We will send some money to your account and you will help us transfer it to our partners. The next morning, I received a notification from my bank. $2,000 had been deposited into my account. Mr. Carter emailed me with instructions to transfer the money to another account using an online payment service. He said it was part of a routine transaction to test my efficiency. I followed his instructions and sent the money. It felt strange, but I convinced myself it was just part of the job. After all, I had $2,000 sitting in my account for a few hours, which made it feel legitimate. Over the next few days, I noticed some strange things. First, the company's website had very little information. It only had a homepage, a careers page, and a contact form. Second, I realized that the emails from Mr. Carter always had spelling mistakes, which seemed odd for a professional company. Then I started getting emails from my bank about unusual activity on my account. They were asking questions about the transactions I had made. I felt a pit in my stomach. Something wasn't right. One evening, I decided to do more research on global future solutions. I googled their name along with the word scam, and what I found left me shocked. There were dozens of complaints from people who had been tricked by the same company. They described how the scammers used fake job offers to steal their personal information and money. I felt a cold sweat on my forehead. I quickly checked my bank account and noticed that my balance was much lower than I expected. Somehow, they had accessed my account and withdrawn money. I realized I had been a victim of identity theft. The next day, I went straight to my bank. I explained the situation to the manager, and they immediately froze my account to prevent further transactions. They told me that scammers often use fake job offers to lure people into sharing sensitive information. I also reported the incident to the police and filed a complaint with the cybercrime unit. They told me that these types of scams are becoming more common, and many people fall for them because they seem so convincing. Recovering from the scam wasn't easy. It took weeks to sort out my bank account, and I had to monitor my credit report to make sure my identity wasn't being used elsewhere. But more than anything, I felt betrayed. Not by a person, but by my own desperation and lack of caution. Looking back, there were so many red flags I ignored. The too good to be true salary, the request for personal information, and the strange behavior of the so called hiring manager. After the scam, I promised myself to be more cautious. I learned to research every opportunity thoroughly, trust my instincts, and never share sensitive information without verifying its source. Now I tell everyone, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. This experience taught me the importance of staying informed and alert. While it was a painful lesson, it made me stronger and wiser. I hope sharing my story can help others avoid the same mistake. When my wife Laura and I moved into the old house, we were looking for a fresh start. We had two kids, Emily and Jack, and the charm of the countryside was calling to us. The house was large, with a creaky wooden floors and a basement that smelled of damp earth. It was old but affordable, almost too good to be true. The first week passed uneventfully, though the kids kept joking about the basement being haunted. Emily, who was 10, claimed she heard faint whispers when she stood near the basement door. Jack, only 6, was more curious than scared and tried to sneak down the narrow stairs every chance he got. One evening, after we had settled into the living room to watch a movie, we all heard it, a faint knocking sound coming from the basement. It was subtle at first, almost like the wine had found its way into the walls. But then it grew louder, deliberate, as if someone or something was trying to get out. Laura and I exchanged nervous glances. It's probably the house settling, I said, trying to sound confident. Old houses make noises. Still, my curiosity got the better of me. Armed with a flashlight, I went to the basement door. The kids followed me, though Laura stayed back, clearly uneasy. As I opened the door, the creaking echoed through the quiet house. The stairs were steep and narrow, leading into a pitch black space. My flashlight illuminated the room, revealing cobwebs, old furniture, and a pile of newspapers stacked in one corner. The air was heavy and cold, making it hard to breathe. Hello? I called out, my voice trembling slightly. No response. But as I moved deeper into the basement, I noticed something odd. The newspapers were relatively new. Someone had been here recently. A few nights later, the sounds returned, louder this time. It wasn't just knocking, there were faint footsteps and what sounded like someone breathing. Laura insisted we call the police, but I felt foolish. What could we say? Our basement is haunted? Determined to get to the bottom of it, I set up a camera in the basement. The next morning, I eagerly reviewed the footage. My stomach sank as I watched a shadowy figure move across the screen. It wasn't a ghost. It was a man. That evening, I confronted the intruder. I waited until the noises began again and stormed into the basement with a baseball bat. Who's there? I yelled. To my shock, an elderly man stepped out from behind an old shelf. His clothes were tattered, and his face was lined with years of hardship. Please, he said, raising his hands in surrender. I mean no harm. It turned out that he had lived in the house for decades, long before it was sold. When his family passed away, he couldn't bear to leave. He had been living in the basement, unnoticed, ever seen. At first, I was angry. Angry that he had invaded our lives. Angry that he hadn't left when the house was sold. But as I listened to his story, my anger turned to compassion. He wasn't a ghost or a threat. He was a lonely man clinging to the only home he had ever known. We helped him find a place to stay and made sure he had the resources he needed to start fresh. While the experience was terrifying at first, it taught us an important lesson. Sometimes the truth is scarier than ghosts, but it's also an opportunity to show kindness and understanding. In a quiet little town, there lived a young girl named Emma. From the time she was a child, Emma had a unique gift. She could draw things so beautifully that people often stopped to admire her work. Her pictures were full of colors and emotions, and they told stories without words. It was as if her hands could bring life to paper. Emma's father, Mr. Harris, was a strict and practical man. He worked long hours as a mechanic, and his wife, Mrs. Harris, managed the household. They were good parents who loved Emma and her younger brother, Daniel, but they believed in hard work and stability above all else. They often told Emma, dreams are nice, but they don't pay the bills. You need to focus on something useful. When Emma was 16, her art teacher, Mrs. Walker, noticed her talent. She encouraged Emma to consider a future in art. You have something special, Mrs. Walker told her. Your art speaks to people. You could become a great artist one day. Emma's heart soared at those words, but she knew her parents wouldn't approve. They wanted her to become a doctor, something that sounded practical and respectable. When Emma turned 18, it was time to choose what to study in college. Her parents sat her down and said, Emma, we've said all these years to give you a good education. You are going to study medicine. Doctors help people and they earn a good living. It's the right choice for you. Emma wanted to argue. She wanted to tell them how much art meant to her. But she saw the tired lines on her father's face and the determination in her mother's eyes. She didn't want to disappoint them. So she nodded and said, Okay, I'll do it. But inside, her heart felt heavy. She was giving up something she loved, something that made her feel alive. Emma started medical school, and it was harder than she had imagined. The textbooks were thick, the lectures were long, and the pressure was constant. But Emma had a secret. Late at night, when her roommates were asleep, she would take out her sketch pad and draw. She would draw her dreams, her feelings, and the world she wished she could live in. It was the only thing that kept her going. One day, while walking through campus, Emma noticed a flyer on an art competition. The theme was Dreams and Sacrifice. Emma felt her heart skip a beat. The theme was perfect for her. She thought about entering the competition, but then she remembered her parents' words: focus on your studies. Art is just a distraction. Still, she couldn't resist. She decided to work on a painting late at night, using the little free time she had. It was a picture of a girl standing at a crossroads. One path led to a golden city, symbolizing success and approval, while the other led to a colorful forest, symbolizing freedom and passion. The girl in the painting looked torn, unsure which path to take. Emma submitted her painting under a pseudonym, E.H., because she didn't want anyone to know it was hers. Weeks passed, and she almost forgot about the competition. She was buried in exams and assignments, trying to keep up with her demanding schedule. One afternoon, she received an email that made her heart race. Her painting had won first place. Not only that, but the organizers wanted to feature it in an international art exhibition. Emma couldn't believe it. Her hands shook as she read the email over and over again. But then reality hit her. What would her parents say? They didn't even know she had been painting all this time. She decided to keep it a secret. But the news spread quickly. Soon, everyone in her college was talking about E.H., the mysterious artist. Emma's parents found out when a neighbor congratulated them. Your daughter is so talented. That painting is amazing, the neighbor said. Mr. Harris was confused. What painting? He asked. That evening, Emma sat down with her parents and told them everything. She told them about the competition, the late night sketches, and how much art meant to her. Her father looked at her with disappointment. Emma, you lied to us. We trusted you to focus on your studies. Do you want to throw away your future for some silly paintings? Emma's eyes filled with tears. It's not silly, Dad. It's who I am. I've tried to be the daughter you wanted, but I can't give up on my dreams. I want to be happy, and art makes me happy. Her father sighed and walked away. Her mother sat beside her and said softly, we just want what's best for you, Emma. But maybe we've been too strict. Give us some time to understand. Emma's painting was displayed at the international exhibition, and it received widespread acclaim. Art critics praised her work, calling it a powerful reflection of the struggles between duty and passion. Emma was offered scholarships to art schools and invitations to showcase her work in galleries around the world. Her parents slowly came around. They saw how much art meant to her and how happy it made her. Mr. Harris even apologized one evening, saying, I was wrong, Emma. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I was holding you back. Follow your dreams. We'll support you. Years later, Emma became a successful artist. Her paintings were not just beautiful, they were meaningful. She often spoke at events, sharing her story and encouraging others to follow their passions. Her most famous painting, The Crossroads, became a symbol of hope for people around the world. Emma's journey wasn't easy, but it taught her an important lesson. Never abandon what makes you happy. Dreams may require sacrifice, but they are worth fighting for. And sometimes, when you follow your heart, the world has a way of opening doors you never thought possible.